Over the years, I've learned more about how to become a better presenter. I'm certainly way better now than I was when I started a few years ago. So what I thought I'd do is share sort of some of the things that I've learned. The first thing that I've learned seems really obvious, but it's amazing how often we forget, which is to be yourself. It's really important that people can see the kind of person that you are. In other words, bring your own personality to bear. If you have a sense of humor, use it. If you like facts and figures, use them. Dress in a way that makes you feel comfortable. The second most important thing, and I've said this many times, which is to show up with an attitude to give. If you have something wonderful, if you have an idea, remember you're going to share it with a room of people who've never heard the idea. You're showing up to offer them a new perspective or an invention that they may not have thought of themselves. You're there to give, to educate, to enlighten. Whatever your motivation, it has to be with this desire to give to the audience, not to take from them. It makes a huge difference to how they'll receive your message. One of the most important things to do when you speak is own the room. Remember, you're the one on the stage, you're the one in the front of the room, you're the one with all the light and attention on you, and you should remember to use it to your advantage. Let me give you an example of one of the common mistakes. What's really amazing is how often people start speaking before they've even arrived on the stage. So here's what happens very often. Your name gets called out, you're brought up on stage, and you walk out and you say, "Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, I'm really happy to be here," and you start talking before you even arrived. Now, what this does is it communicates that you're not confident being up there. So practice this. Practice getting all the way to the place you want to be and then speaking. Let me show you what I mean. "Thank you very much for having me here today." Same thing, I'm just introducing myself, and yet I waited to get to where I was going before I started speaking. In fact, if you really want to take a risk, try being quiet for a minute at the beginning. Just take in the room. Take a look. They will wait for you. It's sort of an amazing feeling. So this happens. "Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for having me here today." Same thing. But that pause and that willingness to wait to get to where you're going, it communicates unbelievable confidence that you have. It happens very frequently that while you're presenting, you will lose your train of thought. It just happens. We're human. And the most important thing to do then is to go completely quiet. Never say don't go just go quiet. Find your train of thought. If you need to refer to your notes, that's fine. Look down, refer to your notes. Don't say, "I've lost my place, just looking for my notes here." In other words, the temptation is to explain to people why we're going quiet or why we've stopped talking. Don't worry. Remember, if you own the room, they'll wait for you. On those rare occasions that you do all these techniques and yet you still don't find your train of thought, the best technique there is to be yourself. I was giving a talk once to a fairly large audience. It was like 1,500 people, and it was a very prestigious event that I was speaking at. And I was doing my thing, and in the middle, I lost my train of thought. Now, it happens, and so I went quiet, and I attempted to regain and find my train of thought, and I couldn't. I panicked a little bit, but not too bad, and I continued to stay quiet and try and find what I was thinking about, and I couldn't. And now I thought, okay, just start talking, tell a story. I've got a database of hundreds of stories in my mind, and yet on this particular moment, I could remember none. I wouldn't be surprised if I couldn't remember my own name if somebody asked me at this time. I mean, my mind was blank. I didn't know what to do, and now panic set in. And so I turned to the audience, and I told them what I was experiencing. I turned to them and said, "Have you ever had that experience where something goes horribly wrong and your heart starts pounding and you start to sweat?" I said, "Have you ever had that experience?" I said, "I'm having that right now." And they all started to laugh. Now they were on my side. I said, "I've completely lost my train of thought and I'm completely embarrassed. So if anyone could just help me out, please, I'd love that." And somebody screamed out what I was saying last. I went, "Thank you, that's what it was." Because now by being myself, by admitting not what I was going through, but admitting how I felt, I talked about the feelings I was having, people could relate and were now rooting for me and actually helped me. It actually became a funny experience. Here's a technique I learned recently, and it's really helpful. for many people, speaking in front of an audience can be the scariest thing they've ever done. People actually say, I hate public speaking. I'm so afraid of public speaking. But one of the techniques that I would offer is to reinterpret that fear as excitement. So if you're standing backstage and you're about to go out and you start to get nervous and you peek through the curtain, you see hundreds of people and you've never done this before and you don't know what to do and you start panicking, say to yourself, this is exciting. And you'll be amazed simply how reinterpreting the data that your mind is receiving completely changes your state of mind. Much like taking your time to get started, it's really important that you take your time when you're actually speaking. Strangely enough, there's actually no such thing as too slowly when you're giving a talk. Too fast, that comes easy, and we're all susceptible to it. Nerves, or just watching clocks, or whatever it is, makes us race, or we think we have to get all the content in as quickly as we can, and we start speaking faster and faster. And as you can tell right now, the faster I go, you're actually less interested in everything I have to say. And yet, if I speak really slowly, sort of uncomfortably slowly, where in my mind I'm thinking, this has to be too slowly. And yet for some reason, it's way more interesting to hang on every single word instead of racing through your content. Related to the pace in which you speak, you have other tools at your disposal. The volume of your voice, the emphasis of words, the length of your pauses, all can be used for dramatic effect. One thing which people don't realize about me, which surprises people, is I'm actually an introvert. And I'm actually uncomfortable with large groups of people. And it's actually helped me be a better public speaker, because I don't like speaking to groups, but I can speak to individuals. Looking at individuals and talking to one individual at a time, giving them an entire thought or an entire sentence, hugely powerful for creating a connection with your audience, no matter the size of the audience. Remember, a speech isn't just the giving of the speech. It's the manner in which you give the speech. It's the way you show up on the stage. It's the pacing of the speech. It's also how you end the speech. It's how you accept the applause from the audience. Applause is like a gift. They don't have to give it to you. And if they didn't really like you, they'll give you some sort of polite applause and it'll be over immediately. But if they really appreciated what you said to them, maybe they'll give you a standing ovation. Or maybe they just will keep applauding and applauding and applauding and applauding. It goes on and on. These are all the expressions of gratitude. And they're gifts. So just as if someone were to give you a gift, a physical gift in a box, it would be rude to just push it back. It would be rude to say, I don't need a gift. So too is it really important to accept the applause with gratitude. So when they applaud you, you stand on the stage, you look at them one at a time, just as you did while you were speaking, and you say, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. You look at each one in the eye and you say, thank you. And once you've decided you've said thank you enough, and you've decided to walk off the stage, walk off the stage. Just as you came on with confidence and then stood and waited to start, when you've decided that you've said thank you and you can now leave the stage, you walk off the stage. Don't stop, don't come back, don't do lots of these on your way out. You've said your thank yous and now walk off with the same confidence that you walked on. And that's when your presentation is concluded. Sometimes when you give a talk or give a presentation, you'll be required to answer questions at the end. The most important thing to remember is you don't have to know all the answers. If you know the answers, tell them what you think. If you don't know the answer, then tell them you don't know. In other words, it actually demonstrates more confidence when you say you don't know something than pretending. Because when you pretend, not only does everybody know that you don't know the answer, but you look like you're pretending and you actually destroy the confidence they had in you. It's sort of remarkable how the Q&A can make and break you. There's only two things you should really stay clear of. Don't read your stuff. Know your stuff. Notes are to help keep you on track if you need that, but you should really know your stuff instead of just reading it. That's number one. Number two, if you're going to use PowerPoint slides, don't put all the content on the PowerPoint slides. The PowerPoints are like chapter sections. They're designed to guide or add a little depth or add some imagery to the things you're saying. It's still about you. It's not about the slides. It's about the ideas that you hold. So use all of these things, but use them sparingly.